Law enforcement despised Steven Avery. Steven Avery was a shining example of their inadequacies, their misconduct.
We chose Steven Avery as our subject because here was a man who had been failed by the system in 1985 and was now stepping back into it 20 years later. You know, we viewed that as this amazing opportunity to sort of do a checkup on the American criminal justice system. How much had it advanced? And if not far enough, what more could be done?
When you started this, did you have a view on the case?
No, I mean, we did not set out to convict or exonerate Steven Avery. You know, we were there to document the Halbach case as it was unfolding and really to try to understand the historical context for that case. So we wanted to go back and understand how the wrongful conviction in 1985 came about, what were some of the contributing factors, and to try to see whether there had been significant enough advances in the system so that there wouldn't be the same failure in 2005.
Now, one of the criticisms that's been leveled at the series is that the facts that you have put on display do not portray an accurate picture of what the prosecution had to say in the case. What do you say to that?
I disagree. With respect to particular pieces of evidence, of course we left out evidence. This was a 10-part documentary series that spans 30 years. It wasn't just an it wasn't an investigation into the Halbach murder. It was actually a window into how Steven Avery was prosecuted. And with respect to particular pieces of physical evidence, what was left out, in our opinion, was much less significant than what was included.
Your presence there during all of this in a pretty small community, do you think you in any way influenced events by actually being there and recording them and being so close to the Avery family?
I mean, I think as a documentarian, you always have that question, just your literal presence, the presence of a camera, does that change what's going on? But we were very careful. You know, Laura has a law background. We knew this was a pending case. We never asked people about the facts of the case. We were there to document people's experiences. And, you know, I would argue that we had much less of an impact on anything that was going on than any other member of the media or journalist who was there, who was playing a very active role in the case.
You show at one point a member of the media essentially talking about a case being a ratings gift, this sort of case. How is what you're doing or you've done any different?
Well, I think our motives for making this series had nothing to do with ratings, whereas I think news directors are concerned with their ratings.
But surely you are concerned that this gets a wide audience. I mean, it isn't. What's so different about it?
Well,
our process is different. I mean, ours was much more organic, I would say. You mentioned that Steven Avery, you know, was at the center of our story. I mean, we chose him to be our main subject. We wanted to put a human face on the experience of an accused in America. And what is it like, you know, to be accused? What is it like to stand trial in a high-profile case? And what is it like to do so when your antagonist, law enforcement, has a vested interest in the outcome of your trial? That is your guilt.
I think the sheriff just wanted to get quick results and get a suspect behind bars.
I was absolutely devastated. It's like, why would they arrest Steve for that? That was so out of his character. People believed he did it though because he was an Avery.
You know, here was a family that had already endured the nightmare of having a family member wrongly imprisoned for 18 years. And this was a family that actually knew he was innocent in 1985. And, you know, for another 2 decades. It wasn't a family that just believed in their hearts he couldn't have committed the crime. They were with him on July 29th of 1985, and they knew that he hadn't convicted it yet. He hadn't committed the crime yet. There was nothing they could do to help him. And here they were 20 years later. Steven was back in custody and once again proclaiming his innocence, and they felt just as helpless and felt like they had no additional options, nothing beyond what they had in 1985. They had to rely on the very system that had failed him 20 years prior.
And beyond the legal aspects of this, what conclusions did you reach about the way society deals with a family like the Averys? Because it's not simply about the justice system, it's about how the community related to them, isn't it?
I mean, this isn't just a legal thriller or a legal documentary. I mean, it's really a story about human beings and how we treat each other, and the importance of, having empathy for people that aren't like you, and treating them the way you would want to be treated yourself. As Laura mentioned, we chose Steven. We're telling the story of what it's like to be accused and asking viewers, is this how you would want to be treated?
What about the victim in all of this? That is another one of the criticisms, that Teresa Halbach doesn't really come alive in what is quite a long 10 hours of programming. I mean, why not? Why did you not focus on her as well?
Well, I think we would have wanted to be able to include more about her. That would have taken the participation of people in her life to do so. So we tried to do what we could with the materials that we did have. Clearly she is a victim in this story. And, if the person who murdered her is not in prison, I think this series is very much about doing justice for Teresa.